Is that through QWR, or is there any other way how we should demand it?
I'm giving up trade secrets. No.
You told us we should see it, is it?
Yeah, getting copies of PSAs. Sometimes they can be obtained through the trustees. Sometimes they can be obtained through the internet. Sometimes they can be obtained through the master servicers, but you will not get that document in a QWR. You might request it, but you will not get that document. There were two of them that were very tough for me to get. One happened to be if your loan is in a trust, which starts with CCB. Guess what CCB stands for? China Commercial Bank. So Google CCB, pull up their website. And I welcome any one of you to send me an email, because my email is here if you have any questions. But I'm asking you if you can read Chinese, because the entire website's Chinese. But if you want to ask a question, they do have an office in New York. Who said that the answer to my question had to be answered in Beijing? So those documents are pretty tough to get, and that's what I was trying to locate. Go ahead.
Bill, real quickly, you've mentioned a great many banks, but in my case, I went to Saxon Mortgage, actually option one, who I got the loan through, and then in less than a month, I had them saying that Saxon Mortgages would be taking over the servicing. And then, of course, I did what I did, and then all of a sudden we have quality loan services. How, other than hiring, of course, which I will be doing, how does one find out when you have two companies that aren't banks, theoretically?
Well, those two entities are out of business. Right. And I can also tell you that those two entities also securitize their loans.
And here's an interesting thing. They're now going to sue me in bankruptcy court again. Saxon Mortgages listed on August 30th. Yeah. Well, if they're not in business, how in the hell can they sue me? Correct?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
I'd bring that up to the judge. Go ahead.
Bill, the question earlier was how do we get a PSA copy? Can we require these, or request them, I should say, through Freedom of Information Act?
No, that's Freedom of FOIAs are federal government public records request or state. You can't go after the feds for the bank. Well, the bank owns the fed.
Right.
So
Yeah,
Freedom of Information wouldn't work from that case?
No, not at all. Like John said, Freedom of Information Act is for government records. These are contracts.
Right here, we got the mic right here.
Yes, sir.
How do we find out what the structure and the content and the format for a QWR? Where do we find that?
12 USC 26051 or 5, yeah.
Okay, we have all that on the website.
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
QWRs or piece of cake at standard format. ShowMeTheLoan.net.
I had
Yeah. Go ahead.
I had thought that since the banks made these mortgages with what you call federal or Fannie Mae forms, they fall under the jurisdiction of doing a FOIA because they use a federally insured loan or something like that. Is that true or false? Can you still do a FOIA request on a bank because they put themselves under a federal loan,
No,
so to speak? Okay.
you won't get that information.
Just so you understand real quick. Okay, there's actually a book out called Skinny Bitches. Have you ever? Has anybody ever read that book? Okay, and in one part of it, it totally amazed me because the girl starts talking about how, believe me, I didn't read the book. Somebody had me read that section, and I just thought it was fun. I really don't read too many women's novels. But the lady goes into that the FDA has nothing to do with the federal government. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FDIC, sorry, municipal corporations, privately owned. We have the documents to prove it. So, okay.
I'm sorry, what, I guess the, part of it was that you're using a HUD-1 settlement statement. And that's a government agency, isn't it? Housing and Urban Development?
Housing and Urban Development.
So when they use the HUD-1 form, doesn't that create the assumption that it is a federally connected loan?
No. HUD and those forms were created for uniformity, but it doesn't fall under the Freedom of Information Act.
Yes, Bill.
Yes.
My particular case was an ABN AMRO loan,
Yep.
which was merged into city mortgage.
Right.
And I've run into nothing but problems trying to find out whether it's securitized or not, because there's no mention of MERS or anything on it. Is there still a way to track whether that's in a trust?
Yes. Yes, it is. And as crazy as it may sound, I've found a lot of city mortgages that the trusts and the securities are owned by the Bank of Nigeria. Yeah.
Is that why that guys keep sending me the email
Yeah.
about? Oh.
Yeah, Bank of Nigeria. It's interesting. Yes.
Hold on, Marty. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question. When the lender is one name, JP Morgan Chase Bank, and the servicing agent is Chase Home Finance, and you are filing a federal lawsuit, do you include both on the case, or just the servicer who's been collecting the payments from you over this time?
Well, I don't know if that borders on legal advice or not, does it?
You can say if it was
Me?
Okay. If it was me, I'd find out, one, who the master servicer is, which in your case,
Chase Home Finance.
Chase Home Finance.
From
I
the
would-
very beginning.
I would list them. I would list Chase Home, just to cover yourself, the other entity. And I would also list the trust and the trustee.
Okay, and you will explain later how we find that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, real quick. All right. There again, this is not legal advice, but when discussing rules of civil procedure, whether federal or state, there's what's called in law or in court procedures indispensable parties. It's far better off to list everybody and remove people, because if you want to add somebody, the court may deny it. And under, I think it's 12F, if you fail to list an indispensable party, the whole case can be thrown out. List everybody. Hell, list your neighbor if you don't like them. But, because everybody's going to have to respond, then you kick them out. And we're getting to the point now. Hey, Morse code. We're getting to the point now where we're probably also going to list the title companies. Okay.
We got a web question.
Go ahead.
Two parts real quick. There was a question that was stated that we got half of it for the web. The web would like to know what the second half was.
From the gentleman up front?
Correct.
If I remember correctly, his loan was with Downey Savings. And he wanted to know that was a failed institution that
U.S. Bank claims that they took it over in receivership, and I wanted to know if that was something where U.S. Bank actually foreclosed upon us, went to a third party. Okay. So U.S. Bank sold it to a third party. We're been evicted completely from that as of now. But with what you covered in your presentation here, is it something that I should go back to Downey now and see if that falls in your category? And if so, how do I find out if, in fact, FDIC owns it as opposed to U.S. Bank, who actually was the one who foreclosed upon me?
you can make a phone call to the FDIC, ask for the receiver that handled Downey Savings. I'm sure there's still some assets that the FDIC has. You can actually call them. The FDIC actually, when you call into the FDIC, they're very nice people. They are helpful, and they will tell you. But when you get to the receivers, sometimes they're not as upfront, but you can call them.
Well, is that website Fannie Mae or is it FDIC that we can go to and look up?
Fannie Mae has and has provided, because of what's happening out there, a site that you can put in your address and see if it's a Fannie Mae loan.
Okay.
So that's a Fannie Mae website.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm curious about your thoughts. 2006, I purchased a home from First Magnus. 2008, going into foreclosure. First Magnus sent me a letter stating that they are still the legal owner of the home. However, they were transferring service to Countrywide. Countrywide does have my second on the home. I went through bankruptcy 2008. They tried to, Countrywide tried to lift the stay 3 different times. Judge says you're not legal owner of the property, so they could not lift the stay. January 2009, again, I hadn't made any payments. So for 2 years, First Magnus is saying, now I'm going to assign it to Countrywide. Just want to say that. After 2 years, non-performing. Bankruptcy discharged January 9th. Then BAC on September 9th, 8 months later, does an assignment. So all those 3 times prior, they were saying that they owned the loan and could not show the judge an assignment or anything. What are your thoughts waiting, 2 years to transfer the loan? And First Magnus went into bankruptcy also when they assigned servicing only, but retained ownership. Any thoughts? And how they would be able to get it out of bankruptcy?
Yeah, if it was me, First Magnus did file for bankruptcy. I actually would file for quiet title.
I tried that before. I probably did it incorrectly.
Okay.
Quiet title?
File for quiet title. You tend to get the rats out of the woodwork when you file quiet title, and you'll find out who might or might not show up. But that's what I would do.
If you filed for quiet title and you didn't have any evidence, an affidavit showing the break in the chain of title, you cannot be granted quiet title.
So I have it now, though. Okay, good. All right.
All right, Bill, real quickly. We have some eyes that Saxon Mortgages and Option 1 are both closed, defunct. They don't exist. Fannie Mae's in with works with all this stuff right here. My point is I'm still being sued by Saxon Mortgages in bankruptcy and still have a state case coming up with the attorney for Saxon Mortgages and Option 1. Going through your process to find out what the hell do we do?
Well, what I would do is Saxon, honestly, I'm not sure the judge is going to ask them, what in the world are you doing in my courtroom?
Well, after I tell her that the Saxon Mortgages no longer exist,
Right.
she's going to say, is this true or not?
Right. What I would do is I would try to find out, who actually does own it, because those entities are all gone. Yeah. all
Okay,
gone.